We're building a high-performance Predator 212 for a mini bike. The stock engine's already stripped down, and we're going to add some parts that let it breathe and spin a lot quicker. First thing, the factory airbox comes off so we can mount a 22mm carb with a velocity.
Hello everybody, welcome to Mechanic Dave. This time we are in the new shed, the little man cave, the Dave Cave. That's what we're calling it. And we are going to be working on this 212 Ghost. This is going to be Project Poltergeist. I'm calling it now. So a little backstory with this motor. So bring your minds back to when we built the stroker motor. That guy put it in his go-kart and went out and raced all of his buddies, and he smoked them so much to the point where they considered it unfair. So they all then messaged me, and one of them said, hey, I have a ghost motor that lost to that stroker motor. I need you to build it to keep up and or beat that guy. Well, right there is about $1,700 worth of parts. I know it might not look like a lot, but we're going to be doing almost the same build as that stroker motor, but we're going to be tweaking. We're going to be doing a different head on it, and it's going to have the ghost exhaust on it. And what else? I think that's going to be it. The different head and a different exhaust. Other than that, it's going to be the exact same motor. So might not be super interesting, but it might be pretty fun. So let's get into it. So from my understanding, this is about as stock of a Ghost as it gets. Obviously, this is a different intake manifold that they use to keep the carburetor away from the tire. The tire's going to be about here. We're not going to be able to do much with it unless I was to cut it here and then just keep adding pipe and expanding it up to where the silicone thing would slip on, but I don't think we'll do that. We're probably just going to do the straight out and lift the engine up on the cart would be my guess. But most of this is going to be going away. This Ghost Hemi head, gone. This carburetor, gone. We have the Mikuni, the PWK 26. We have a Wildcat 946 head. It's got a 31mm intake valve. It's all ported out, CNC. So this thing should make some pretty good power. So, but right now, completely stock. I think they make like 9 horsepower out of the box. So we're hoping that this thing will start making about 18. Almost double. So let's get to it. All right. We got the Ghost motor disassembled. This is all the stock parts that we're going to be replacing. So the intake, the carb, the air filter, the crankshaft, the piston, and the rod, the camshaft, the coil, the flywheel, the side cover, and I think that's about it. Oh, and the head. So we got the block all torn down. So we're going to go ahead and get the rest of the oil and stuff out of there. Get our stroker crank in there. Get the rod and piston in place and see where we need to clear. I can see the Ghost motors are pre-clearanced at the top. We'll probably still have to clearance at the bottom and definitely on the side. But one thing I do like about this block, there's no holes for oil sensor or governor, obviously because it's a Ghost. It's a racing block. And I cannot remember if a regular Predator motor had these reinforcements inside the block. I can't remember off the top of my head. I could just be fucking hammered or something, but it almost seems like the Ghost block itself is a better block than a regular 212. Obviously, they're limited due to the coil to like 6,500 RPM. And they're not super high compression. Obviously, the head takes off after a Hemi. So, and I'm not quite sure what the camshaft measures out at. And this just looks like a regular 22mm carb. So, all this stuff is great performance out of the box, but we are taking it a step further. All right, we got the arc rod, our flat top piston, and our stroker crank in there. And we're going to combine everything together loosely to see if we have any clearancing problems. And typically what I find with these 320, 325 brown box cams is that they have a tendency of hitting the front lobe on the crank. So we're just gonna, yeah, just like that. Boom. So this front lip gets ground off of the crankshaft, but not to interfere with the journal. Just get that lip shaved down so it can clear the cam lobe. And then typically here, here, and here get clearanced with the stroker crank. It's close, but no cigar. But right there is where we're going to need to clearance the block a little bit. So it's close, but I don't feel it grabbing or hitting anything. I'm going to stick a gauge in there and see what it comes out to. But I think we might be okay. Even up there looks pretty good. So I think if we were just to clearance this one area, we might be good. All right, let's talk about heads. So as far as I'm aware, this is a completely unmolested stock Ghost head. And this over here is a Wildcat. Here's the part number, WC496. This would have come on a 223 or 224. It's been CNC ported. It has billet retainers from EC Carb. And it has 26-pound valve springs that we're not going to keep with this specific head. But the major difference is this is a non-Hemi with an 18cc chamber. And this is a hemispherical head. And I'm not too sure about the size in the combustion chamber. But this is going to make more power than this head. And that's the important thing. So I'm going to measure out the intake and exhaust ports. Another major difference is this has a larger intake valve than a typical stock head, which I will measure out. But this has a huge intake valve. This is a 31 millimeter intake valve, and that's a 25 millimeter exhaust valve. And you can see it's been nicely milled. This is a very nice head. I'm very pleased with it. I think with stronger valve springs and then Champion rockers, this thing will be unstoppable. So let's look at valves real quick and combustion chambers. Obviously, small combustion chamber and a 31 millimeter valve. The Ghost head has a 27 millimeter intake valve, and the stock Hemi head has a 26, and the stock non-Hemi head also has a 27 millimeter intake valve. Obviously the non-Hemi has a smaller combustion chamber than both the Hemi and the Ghost, but not quite as small as the Wildcat head. Now let's measure the ports. All right, so I measured the intake ports on all four heads from the same spot. We're putting the tool flat in here and measuring inside. The stock Ghost head measures at 22 millimeters, and both the non-Hemi and the Hemi head measure at 23. Now the Wildcat measures at 25. So right away, between the stock Ghost head and the Wildcat head, huge difference. Huge difference. This head is going to perform absolutely insanely better than any of these heads would. It's going to give more compression, it's going to flow a lot better, and in the end, it's going to make way more power. Okay, so we have the block clearanced, and I cleared it a little bit more up here and down here just to be safe. But the block is clearanced, the block is completely clean. We went ahead and drilled out the oil return, because you just have this tiny little hole in there initially for oil to return from coming up in through this channel, going through your head, and then it just stays there, which is what causes a lot of blow by. So we're gonna have our oil return gallery opened wide up. You can see the clearancing right there, just enough, the rod doesn't hit. It was already pre-clearanced up here, but we went ahead and did it a little bit more close to this edge and down here as well. So this block is ready to go. Now, I said before that we were going to have to clearance the crankshaft because of the cam. This is what I mean by clearance the crank. You know, you got to take just that lip off just to clear it, and that is plenty. That's more than enough, trust me. And it doesn't throw the crankshaft out of balance, which is nice. So now we can go and start assembling everything. We'll get the crank back in there. We'll get the bearing placed back in. Get the rings in the piston. Get the rod torqued down. And we'll get the cam, the lifters, and all that. And we'll move on to the head. All right. We have the rotating assembly all done. The cam needed a little bit of clearancing around the center shaft. But that is to be expected. And then we got the billet, not billet, side cover on there. These are pretty decent. I had one in my stock. They're not billet. They are cast. They're polished cast. They're really nicely polished cast. But these are not billet. They are a double roller on the crank. On the cam, they are just a brass bushing that rides on the cam. The ones from EC Carbs are double roller here and here. I just didn't have access to one at this time. This is one I literally just had it in my stock of junk. So the rotating assembly is all complete. We have our drilled out oil gallery. Engine has all new seals in it, all new gaskets. So we're going to get our brass nipples, get those in there, and now we can start working on the head and valve train. So right now we're just getting the studs in. Always use red Loctite. I really like these studs. They're really good quality. They hold the head in place. These are not to be used with the Racer Pro Quip heads. The Wildcat head fits just fine. Racer Pro Quip has raised runners. So you either need taller studs or they sell a bolt kit. But I really like putting studs on high compression engines. All right, so we have the valve cover spacer and the billet valve cover in there. Our rockers are in there, the Champion rockers. Valves are last what is it, 3,000ths, whatever 0.003 is. I'm not good at math. I'm just good at knowing numbers. We got the intake in place. We have the gasket matched to the port, which is nice. Had to modify this top plate a little bit just to fit the MSD boot. But, oh, Jesus Christ. Now it's not hitting. Got the top fuel plate on. Cover's looking good. I forgot this plug, and all of a sudden it just started pouring oil. I was like, what the fuck? We have the stock Ghost exhaust on there. They flow pretty good. This one, a little noisy. That first baffle in there is a little loose. I don't think you'll actually even hear it, to be honest. But so far it's looking pretty good. Still waiting on the flywheel to come in. I ordered the wrong one. Ordered one for a Hemi. These stroker cranks take a non-Hemi. So yeah, that was my fault. But we're getting through all our parts. Got a couple of things left. Still got to get the carburetor in there. Still got to put the Juggernaut Stage 2 kit in the torque converter. I have to replace the spring in the drive pulley. But luckily, I picked up this clone motor the other day, a little 196, and it came with a jack shaft, so I'll probably end up just stealing that whole pulley. And it should work the exact same. It's a red spring. The one that was on the Ghost doesn't engage all the way. It actually just sits. So the bearing is either worn out or the spring's all worn out. But that's why it kills to have extra parts. Alright, so we got the Ghost exhaust on. We got the PWK 26 carb on. Really like these carbs. I've had really good luck with them. They make pretty good power. And they're fairly easy to tune once you get used to them. Missing a tube for venting crankcase pressure into the valve cover spacer. But that's fine. We have the breather on there. We have the fuel pump all hooked up, so It's getting its pulse from there, and it's hooked up to the carb, and then this would go to the fuel tank. So they need to get the jack shaft kit on and build the Juggernaut, and fill it with oil, get the flywheel on, and then this engine is done. I'm assuming this thing's gonna make round about 20, 21 horsepower will be my guess. That Wildcat head, I'm very happy with it. Ports on it worked great. Whole block actually came out really clean, so it's looking pretty good. All right, finally we can install the final part, the ARC Speedway flywheel. One piece, billet aluminum, 32 degrees timing. These things are really good. It's worth $140 or whatever they're going for these days. And this thing is done. I think my favorite part of this build was the Wildcat head and the Wildcat intake. Haven't used any of those parts before, and I'm very happy with them. Can't wait to hear this engine run, and I can't wait to see the go-kart go. And I'm sure the owner cannot wait to run this thing either. So he's going to do all the break-in, and he's going to send a video, which you'll see here.
Unfortunately, the budget still hasn't recovered from the Stinger AI debacle, so this is what has to happen. Like and subscribe.